Welcome to the podcast, Young in Love.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Young in Love podcast. This is Kezia, your favorite podcaster. How on a day? How are you guys doing? On today's episode, we are going to be discussing the mystery of friendship with the opposite sex as a married person. And I'm not doing this episode alone. I've invited Dr. Michael to do this episode with me. So a little bit about him. Michael Ihoma Ogu PhD is a researcher, he's an analyst, a social entrepreneur, and wholesome relationship and enthusiast. He's a three-time graduate of Babcock University, Nigeria, where he earned all his degrees from bachelor's to doctorate. He's also a recipient of the prestigious Fulbright Scholar in Residence program, which is funded by the United States Department of State. Dr. Ogo has worked with young people all his adult life, from being a youth leader to initiating and implementing several youth led and youth oriented programs at various levels. And he has continued to positively impact lives one young person at a time. Michael is the founder of Arise and Thrive Growth Initiative, which is a nonprofit social enterprise registered and based in Nigeria. So this enterprise is aimed at providing affordable tech and soft skills to undergraduates, fresh graduates, early career professionals. If you're interested, perhaps Michael will tell you how you can get in touch, right?
Yeah.
He's a published author, has a book published and one in the pipeline, I believe. So, Michael,
Mhm.
welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. So, maybe speak a little bit about how interested young professionals can be a part of this initiative that you founded, and then maybe a little bit about the book that you have and the one in the pipeline.
Yeah, thank you very much, Keziah, for having me. I've been a fan of Young and Love podcasts actually from I think from the very beginning,
Yes.
yeah, from the very early days up to the award in Lagos, the Pulse Awards, and so you're just doing great. So
Thank you. That's a
it's
long
nice to
time.
be, yeah, it has. So it's nice to be here anyway. It's nice to finally be a guest on the podcast. So thank you for having me. And yeah, like you said, I have actually the first book I published was an academic book, so it was more like a textbook, political science textbook, for beginners, introductory textbook for political science students, either in their first introductory level, basically. So that's just academic book, in the library bookshop for yeah. And then this one that I'm currently working on, Smitten, is actually something. It's a book that was inspired by relationships, generally, and the negative kind, that we see young people involved in or exposing themselves to, where you find boyfriends killing their girlfriends, using them for rituals, cutting body parts, and so
Mm.
this kind of news, continue to upset, nauseate me, and so I just felt like, let me just perhaps put my own experiences, put my own perception about what
Your
relationship
experience.
ought to be like exactly,
Okay.
what it ought to be. Let me put that in a book, and so that's how Smitten came about. So it's
Mm.
one that I poured my heart out, into, and I'm excited for people to read it. It's actually coming out in July, so
Okay.
hopefully, yeah. And of course, there's going to be there's going to be some kind of pre-ordering at a discounted rate, but all of that, would deal with when the time is
Yeah.
right.
Where are you
And
planning
then,
to publish it though? Like
uh,
Amazon or?
yeah. It's actually an Amazon. It's going to be on Amazon and Kindle.
Okay.
So it's basically online, and hopefully I'll have a few copies, hard copies, to distribute some around Nigeria, and of course for people who also want hard copies, we can find a way around it. But the idea basically is to get as many people to read it as possible, and
Mhm.
it's actually designed in three parts. So there's a before relationship, during, and after,
Okay.
right? So anybody actually is going to benefit from it, whether you are in a marriage or you have
Single.
suffered a heartbreak or you are single.
Mhm.
There's something in it for everybody. So
Yeah.
I'm actually excited about this one. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
excited. And then you talked about
Thank you.
social enterprise. Let me just make a point there, right? So ATGI is actually one of my babies, one of my many babies, and there's something that we are a project we're currently planning, Skill Vault. So Skill Vault is just soft skill training program for, those category of people, high school seniors, undergraduates, fresh graduates. And the link is actually on our website. So you just go to atginitiative.com, and then all the information you need to apply is there. It's actually free. We're a non-profit, so most of our trainings and programs are free of charge. But we
True.
want to see the commitment, to see it through. So thank you again for having me, and I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to the conversation.
Yeah. Same, same. It's
Yeah,
a really good one because sometimes people in Nigeria say, "Oh, I don't have the money to register for this training. I don't have the money to do
yeah,
this." So if
definitely
you have this initiative where you're upskilling people, reskilling
hmm
them for free,
for
I'm
free.
I'm going to tell everyone. I'm going to tell
Thank you,
everyone.
thank
All
you.
right. So, welcome once again to the Young and Love podcast. So today, this episode was inspired by you actually. So I saw this post on your Facebook. Because I'm a relationship podcaster, when I see posts like this,
Yeah,
I'm already thinking like, okay,
thinking.
okay, okay. Yeah. So I saw this one where this lady was lamenting, right, about the loneliness that comes with being married, because
Mm.
people, I think maybe people just tend to give married people their space.
Space.
From the point that you get married, people are trying not to cross boundaries with you
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like your partner. People are trying to give you space. I hear this thing even when like I was in Babcock, they used to say a lot about honeymoon phase. Let
Mm.
young married people just be on their own to know themselves, understand each other before family and friends can start coming to maybe visit or stay over. So it's like everybody's just hands off, give them their space, don't cross boundaries, don't call as you used to, and all of that. And I think the result of this, as the lady said in the video, is a
Yeah.
sort of emptiness or loneliness that comes with that.
Loneliness. Yeah.
And I saw your comment, your own caption. You've had your own fair share of the whole I don't know if to say loneliness, perhaps you're going to tell us, but I had a different perspective.
Mm.
Right. And I also commented on that. I have a different perspective. Sometimes people are just perhaps looking after themselves, looking out for themselves when they give the
Yeah.
space. So it's not about you, it's not about your spouse, it's not about your marriage. They're just making room for themselves. So let's get right into it. At the end of the day, this whole conversation stems from friendship, right? Because you're
Yeah.
not going to feel lonely if a stranger cuts you off. You only feel that loneliness because this is a friend that you had friendship with this person, perhaps a good friendship. So, what does friendship mean to you?
All right. Yeah. So thank you again. But before we begin this whole conversation, I just want to put a disclaimer, right? And the disclaimer is the fact that when we talk about when the concept of relationship comes up, love comes up, right? It's important to always mention that there's no there's no one size fit all answer. There's no one size fit all answer. So the perspectives I'm going to be giving here are just my own perspectives. You could disagree with them, you could agree with them, they could be right by you or wrong by you, whatever, is, but these are my own perspectives. And as much as possible, I try to be, you know, in the conversation with my head and my heart. So it's not just emotional, but also logical, so it's a blend of both. And like I'm saying, there's no right or wrong. So if you disagree with me, that's fine. If you agree with me, fantastic. Right now, back to the question: what does friendship mean to me? Right. So friendship is a lot of things. Okay, it's a lot of things. But in this for the context of this conversation, I think that a friend is somebody um who intentionally has your back, who is intentional about you,
Okay.
right? And who has your back, who looks out for you intentionally. And I'm very particular about the word intentional. Okay, because intentionality um, um, shows up in a lot of ways, and in a lot of things. So intentionality is very key, right? So a friend for me is somebody who is intentional about you, and who shows up for you in very intentional ways. That's how I would define a friend in the context of this conversation,
Okay.
right? Yeah,
So do you approach friendship differently? You're saying someone who's intentional about you, someone you're intentional about, because it goes both
about,
ways,
yes,
right?
yes,
So, but
definitely,
do
yeah.
you, being a man, right, do you
hmm
approach friendship with other men differently from how you would approach it if it were to be like a woman, a lady?
Well,
And I'm
no,
not just asking about like how you approach it as a married man. I
as a
mean,
married man, yeah, yeah.
generally,
Just
even like,
generally as a male,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think the answer is no. The answer is no, and this is even before I got married, right? Before I got married, my male friends, even though of course I I I tend to think that I have more female friends than male friends, and the reason is because, or one of the reasons, is because I grew up in a male family. I mean, I have three brothers. I don't have any sister, right? So growing up, I was more drawn to 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 ladies, to females, basically, and perhaps out of curiosity, to understand how ladies think, how they behave, and just basically just be in their company and understand them a lot better. I think that's one of the things that drew me to having more female friends than male friends. I have a lot of male friends too, but how I approach the relationships with both gender is more or less the same. All right,
Okay.
it's more or less the same. And yeah, looking out for people, being intentional. If you have an event, if I can support you, I support you in the way I can. Show up for you, right? When you need assistance, when you need my presence, when you need my ears, so it's more or less the same. There's no discrimination.
When you say you approach, sorry to cut you short, when you say you
Yeah.
approach the friendship with men and women the same, is
hmm
this also the case if they are in a relationship? So let's say you have a female friend and your female friend has a boyfriend, a fiance, or like a
Yeah.
husband. Are you saying that you still approach that friendship the same? Let me just put this in context. Right
Yeah,
now,
please.
at the time of recording, there's this wedding that has been trending, right? JP
Mm.
2025 between Juma and Priscilla. And all
Priscilla,
of
yeah.
us, if you follow them, you follow their story, you know that Priscilla had this bestie, a male bestie, Eniolua,
Mm.
and people have all kinds of things to say. Some people are like they're not comfortable with this whole male bestie, something. And if you see some clips from the wedding, he's adjusting her dress, helping her to do this and that. And then there's him as a male bestie, and then there's the husband. Some people would not be, I don't imagine any universe where they will be comfortable with that kind of male bestie friendship. Like they don't even care how long you have
How
known
long
each
the
other.
bestie has been?
While some other people are super comfortable with it. So here, listening to you now, I'm hearing that you're going to be that kind of person who is okay with it because even you would approach your friendship the same way. Do I understand correctly?
So I mean, it's nice that you put the context, right? It's
Yeah.
nice that you put the context. Now, yeah, I also have my own opinion about that whole bestie, Priscilla's bestie with Eniola and all that. But um, that is a more physical, kind of intentionality, if I could use that word. So you remember I defined a friend as somebody who is intentional about you,
Hmm.
right? So in the context that you have just created now of Enola and Priscilla, their own intentionality, I want to think, is from the videos and pictures that we have seen of them. It's more physical. They hang out a lot together. They are always, in each other's company, perhaps, and all those other physical kind of things, right? But intentionality, it goes beyond that. Okay. And no, I don't subscribe to that kind of. I mean, there was a video I saw yesterday. I think it's the same, Eniola tearing up during the wedding. and all that. And I'm like, so why didn't these guys end up getting married? Why did you leave her to go and marry somebody else
They
if you
said they
are,
were just friends, maybe.
well, I mean, I want to believe that it's another case of, I don't want to, I see you like a brother. I see you like you're just like my brother or like my sister, which messes people up, in my opinion, it messes people up. You like somebody so much that you can't see yourself with them or without them, but you confine yourself to brother and sister. And then when the person finally goes, you are heartbroken and distraught, and you can't simply seem to move ahead. So I have my own reservations about those kind of things. But the point I'm making is that intentionality can come in many other ways that is not physical, you know. And of course, it's not also leaving out the physical part, but like you said, when you have finally gotten married and committed to somebody else in a marriage relationship, then those physical intentional moments there should be boundaries. There definitely should be boundaries.
Okay.
I mean, you can't see Eniola and Priscilla in this context hanging out like they used to before anymore. That would send, you know, suspicion,
But they could be
across the
okay
space.
with it, and the way I see them, maybe because we're dealing with, is it Gen Zs or is it Gen
Mm,
Y? I'm not sure what generation, but
yeah.
when you read the comments, it's a lot of people that are okay with that
Okay,
type of
okay with that. Yeah.
interaction. For me, as you said, I do have my reservations, but my opinion doesn't matter here. It doesn't
Doesn't matter.
count.
Definitely.
It's
Yeah.
their life, and if they're
Mm.
okay with it and genuinely this is a good friendship, then that's fine. But I think one of the reasons I do have a reservation is because I remember, like, several months ago, in fact, even years ago, there were times when Eniola would post, pictures about Priscilla or together with Priscilla, and his caption is something about Iyawo or like alluding to the fact that this could be my
This
wife.
could be something. Yeah.
And people
Yeah.
used to comment like, "Woof, we can't wait for the wedding. We can't." So there was some sort of attraction there,
I think there
and
is
yeah, and I'm going off just based on his social media posts, not rumors. This is
not rumors.
from
Yeah.
his own account, his posts,
Yeah.
his interactions we had, the captions on those posts about being a wife
Mm.
and stuff like that. So whether it was a joke or anything, I don't know, but
Yeah. I
again,
mean,
my opinion does not count here, right?
yeah, I mean, definitely, our opinion doesn't count, but I mean, this is an event that can teach us several lessons about, this subject we're talking about, friendship, right?
Mhm.
So even though I agree that, they could still be friends, they could be platonic friends, and the spouse, I mean, Juma now, if that's his name, could also be fantastic and okay with the relationship, and it could be fine with them, right?
Yeah.
But the bottom line still remains that in my own opinion, in my own opinion, um, if they had such an attraction with one another or to one another, right? If they had such an attraction to one another, then what stopped them from exploring beyond that? Or maybe they could have explored it and perhaps it didn't work and they said, okay, let's stay as friends. So we're not privy to the inside story, right? So we don't know exactly what transpired. But I'm just saying that, like we have both agreed, there's more to it. There seems to be more to it
There
than meets
could
the
be
eye.
more,
Exactly.
yeah.
There could be more than meets the eye.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just advise, if I were to advise, somebody like that, somebody in that situation, that boundaries should exist, because
I
even
think
if
we're
you're
coming to the
platonic friends,
advice part. No, no,
okay,
we're
okay, so
coming
let's
to
let's not just don't jump the
let's not
gun.
advise yet. We're coming to the advice, but yeah, I do agree because at the end of the day, it does take two. Based on your question, like if there was that attraction, then why didn't it work? It
Then what?
takes
Yeah.
two. One person might have been more vocal and expressive and loud about
Mm.
their feelings and intentions, but it's not going to work if the other person is not
The other person, yeah, yeah.
reciprocating, if it's not like a mutual distinct. So, but let's move on.
Mm.
I guess my question here would be, what is the best way to juggle like a romantic relationship with these types of friendship?
Mm. Yeah. So
I mean,
number one is
friends of the opposite sex now.
friends of the opposite sex. Yeah. So number one, I think it's important to be open about these friendships. right? To be open about these friendships
With your partner.
with your partner, definitely. So for instance, when I got married, right, this is personal experience now. There are actually some female friends that are very close to me, that are very close to me, and this they were close to me while I was.
What's your criteria for very close? Sorry.
Uh, yeah, I mean, these are people that if you open my WhatsApp, for instance, you see a chat with me and them, maybe perhaps in the first 5, 10, so there's a constant communication with them, right? And of course, on calls too, perhaps we talk maybe twice a week or thrice a week as much as possible. Yeah, that's I mean that's what I mean by close,
Okay.
so there's constant communication. We're keeping in touch as much as possible. All right. Now, so when I got married, uh, my wife had to meet these people. I got my wife to meet them. I got them to meet my wife, and explain to her, my wife, the nature of the friendships between me and these guys, and of course, she has seen those friendships continue over the years, and in fact, they have also become her friends. So
Okay.
there's now that mutual friendship. We are all now mutual friends,
Okay.
basically. Okay, we're all now mutual friends. So I think that's one important point. You have to be open about the friendships. Now, again, is that there has to be boundaries too. All right, there has to be boundaries as well. I mean, these people I'm talking about who are my friends were people I could speak with into the night while I was single. They could call me by 11, 10:30 p.m., and we could talk for maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, depending on what the conversation is about. But they can't do that anymore now because I'm married. It doesn't mean that they can't call me anymore. But there's now a boundary to how late perhaps they could call me, or yeah. So those kind of boundaries need to be there. Not necessarily cutting off the friends and saying, oh, because you're not married, let's give you all the time in the world to be married, but there are things that there are things that you do out of respect for the institution the person is in and for
Right.
the other person who is in the relationship, now who is in the marriage relationship with your friend,
Mm-hmm.
so those excesses those excesses you need to put, you know you need to
Like
define
nip
them, and
them
of
in the
course
bud.
and nip them in the bud. Exactly. So I think those two
Okay.
things are very important. Open, be open about the friendships, and then of course, create those boundaries against all those excesses that perhaps would have not meant anything. And of course, if my friends even call me, if my female friends now call me, at those late hours, it might not necessarily mean anything, right? But it could come
Emergency
off,
or
yeah, it could come off as, somebody else could interpret it as something else, and of course, if it continues like that too, then it could begin to become a problem. So in themselves, those actions might not be ill intended, right? But you don't know how somebody else would perceive it. So that's why those boundaries are important. That's why those
Mhm.
boundaries are important.
Right. Thank you. I was going to ask you when you mentioned that now some of your female friends are now mutual friends with like your wife, all of you are now
Yeah,
friends.
yeah.
Have you had any experience where you introduce your female friend to your wife and I mean your intention is for them to get to know each other, but it's just not working. Either your female friend is not receptive of your wife, or your wife just has some reservations about a particular female friend of yours. Have you had such an experience?
Well, yeah. So this one was not necessarily a friend. So she was more than a friend, right?
What do you
She
mean
was
more than
actually
a
an she was
friend?
actually an ex. She was actually an ex,
Okay.
right? She was actually an ex. But I'm also someone who doesn't believe that when you have an ex and the relationship doesn't end. I mean, the relationship ends on a mutual basis where you guys say, oh, for whatever reason, we can't continue this relationship, and you're not enemies. You didn't, nobody cheated, nobody abused anybody, there was no violence. You shouldn't become enemies because you're not in a relationship, because you were exes. You shouldn't be enemies. That's my own perception. That's how I see it. All right.
I mean,
So
using the word enemies is such a strong word.
yeah, you shouldn't be.
You shouldn't
Yeah,
be
I think it's a
enemies,
strong
but
word.
you don't
You
have to be
shouldn't be.
friends either.
No, I think the point I'm trying to make is that I'm of the opinion that if you have an ex that you ended things with on a mutual level, right? You can still stay friends
Hmm.
with them. Okay,
Okay.
you can still stay friends with them. Now, what kind of friend is now the conversation? It's a different conversation. How friendly will you be to them? You know, what does the friendship with them entail? That's another entire conversation
But
altogether.
do you think this is
But
also the case? Sorry, I'm derailing with my follow-up
yeah,
questions, but like, do you think this is also the case where during the relationship they were like physically intimate?
you mean the exes, right?
Yeah.
Well, um,
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, yes, I want to believe so. Now this is where I'm driving at. This is where I'm driving at. Before all those things came up.
Yeah.
The point I was driving at was, so this ex of mine, right? When I got married, I introduced her to my wife as well, because I mean she's still I still maintain communication with her. So I introduced her to my wife, and I told my wife the history, with this ex, and why it didn't work out, and all of those things, but somehow, um and of course it's not as if my wife told me about it or mentioned it to me, you know but I just have come to realize that my wife is not very open
Okay.
to to being close with this ex. And I think I understand why. I mean, I understand why. Not I think, I understand
I
why.
understand why.
Yeah, I understand why. And yeah, and I respect that.
Hmm.
So over time, I have tried as much as possible to distance myself from this person, because of how my wife feels about the person, you
Hmm.
know, which is largely unspoken. It's largely unspoken. She hasn't come to say, this and this and this I don't like about this person, and no, she has not said that. But I can read the room. I can see, the behind the scenes, and what goes on in the mind, perhaps, and so I've tried to distance myself as much as possible from this person, just so that, which of course is the essence of the 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 communion, the coming together is respect for each
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
respect for each other. So yeah, so that is one of the cases where I think that, my wife has not been comfortable with a certain person, and how I've dealt with it,
I commend you.
but
I commend you
yeah,
actually for reading
thank
the
you.
room and like taking that into consideration, because it's possible that you could have put a foot down like this person is my friend and this and that, but even without her saying, you picked up on whatever I don't know what those signals were, but you picked up
Yeah,
on them and you acted on them. So that's impressive.
thank you.
Yeah. Then my next question is, we've talked about like how to juggle romantic uh relationships with friendship with the opposite sex. My next question is more about like the married people now. So as a married person, what is the ideal behavior for like a married person in relation to their opposite sex friends? Like, what's the ideal behavior? Do you think that if people are married and there's trust, right? The married person can continue in friendships with the opposite sex as they used to do it before the marriage, because at the end of the day this is based on trust. So if a person calls my husband or calls your wife at 11:30 p.m., 12 noon, for whatever, for you it's fine because you trust your partner. So you, it's not a problem for you. Or do you think, oh, okay, why is this person calling at this time? It doesn't matter what it is. Earlier I said emergency, maybe someone can call at
Mm.
that time, but again in my head it's like, why is someone's husband or wife your emergency contact? your go-to
Mm,
person for stuff like that. So what for you, right? What is the ideal behavior for married people? How should married people conduct themselves? How should married people behave in relation to their friends who are of the opposite sex? And I keep saying opposite sex because the context for this conversation is assuming this there's a heterosexual orientation, because
yeah,
now we know there are people who swing both ways, but let's not take that right now into account.
yeah, yeah,
So what's
yeah.
the ideal behavior for married people?
Yeah, so again, I would give another personal experience, right?
Okay.
Which this time around it's not so beautiful. I mean, the other one was, you commended me, but I'm sure this time around you might not commend me so much.
I'm
So
not the
so in
judge.
this
Hey.
so in this case, and I think the question is very 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 legitimate because sometimes you think that you're in charge, but again, like I said, when it comes to relationship and love, I mean, Solomon didn't understand it. The wisest man that ever lived, he didn't understand it. So it's a mystery, it's a mystery, and which is why it's always important not to always just follow your heart. Follow your heart. We hear that expression a lot of times. Oh, follow your heart, follow your heart. Don't leave your head behind because the heart can lead you to places where your head will be asking you, how did you get here? you
Yeah.
know so I mean, in this situation now, I mean, this is also another female friend, you know not necessarily an ex. She was not an ex, but there was some kind of attraction, with this person before I got married, right? And somehow we have also continued to remain in touch, even after I'm married, right? But for whatever reason, I don't want to play the saint now. For whatever reason, communications with this person, some of them began to be inappropriate, right? They began to be inappropriate, and for some reason, my wife also stumbled on the conversations with her, and you can imagine how that
Yeah.
unfolded. But the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes you, just like I said, you think you are in charge, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. So if you feel like there's unfinished business, like I said, if you feel, this friend, um there's still some emotion there, there's still some romantic attachment or feeling towards this person, then I think the best thing to do is to cut that friendship off completely, because
Okay.
you might feel in control of it, but on some days you might be in control, but on other days you might not so much be in control. And on those days that you're not in control are when all hell could let loose, and you find yourself doing things that you eventually
Can I
regret.
ask you a question?
Yeah.
You said something important. On some days you will be in control, and on
Hmm.
some other days you might not necessarily be in control. So,
Yeah.
and now, based on the fact that you have this experience, I want to ask you, what are some of the factors that impact you on those days when you are not 100% in control? Is this something your spouse might have done? Because, sometimes in marriage, if you're having conflict with your spouse, it already
Yeah.
makes you vulnerable with the other
Vulnerable.
person, with the
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
Or is
Yeah.
it just like this has nothing to do with your spouse? It's just you and how the conversation is going on with your friend. What are those
With the other
factors
person.
that
Yeah.
impact you on those days you're not in control?
Hmm. I mean, the way your brain works is the way your brain works is something else, because I mean, anyway, but I mean, these are very valid questions. These are very valid questions, and the answer is both, actually. It's both, because like you said, some days, your spouse is treating you in a way that you are wishing, you are wishing that it could be somebody else, or it could have been somebody else.
Okay.
Even though, like, we know the grass is not always green on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
right? But because of certain things that you feel, oh, this person has done this, or this person is not doing this, you now begin to think that, oh, that grass on that side, it might be greener than where I am. So it could be a little bit of both, and sometimes, you're just having you just lose guard. You're just it has nothing to do with your spouse. You know,
Yeah.
and you are now beginning to find yourself in compromising situations or conversations that you shouldn't be having. So it could actually be both. But regardless of what the motivation is, you're still responsible for your actions anyway.
Right.
You're responsible for your actions, which is why it's important to set those boundaries early enough so that you're not put in this position where you are led to do things that you regret eventually for whatever reason, whether they are justifiable reason or not justifiable reason from in your own context.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying that for a married person, if you have some kind of romantic attachment whatsoever with a friend of the opposite sex, it's very advisable to end that friendship, because you can never tell when that friendship will bite you, turn back and bite you, you know,
Hmm.
and you might not like the consequence,
Okay.
afterwards.
So I'm trying to build a train of thoughts or like a profile of you when it comes to this discussion. You started
Mm,
out by saying you approach friendships the same, but of course there are exceptions.
yeah.
And then you also stated that you have no problem with being friends, even with exes, especially if the relationship ended mutually.
Mm,
And then now, when I asked what the ideal behavior is for married people, you're saying there should be boundaries, especially when there's attraction. So, to every rule you've stated, again,
the
you're giving
exceptions.
exceptions to those rules. What is the ideal behavior then for the friends, like friends of the opposite sex, to the married person or married people? What's the ideal behavior for them?
Yeah, so I would take myself as a friend, right? I'm
Okay.
relating with somebody who is married, of the opposite sex, maybe a female friend of the opposite sex who is married. You know, I'm somebody who has a lot of elderly friends. So most of my friends are, way older than I am, maybe 10, 15 years older than I am, and that's just me anyway. And so I have friends who are I used to have friends while I was unmarried, while I was single. I used to have friends who were married, with maybe two, three kids and all that. And maybe it's a little bit different from this generation now, right? Because the way I mean, those are basically adults, and I'm more like a mentee, if I could
Yeah.
use that word, right? So the way I would relate with them is quite different from, I think it's different from the conversation we're having as to how maybe a Gen Z person will relate to me, right? If they were my friend and I'm married and they're still single, But I think generally it should be the same rule. I think it should be the same rule, which also goes back to the point you know of boundaries. I mean, and this again depends on what kind of relationship you have with that person
Okay.
who is married. Remember, I'm using myself as a friend. What kind of
Hmm.
relationship do I have with this friend of mine who is married, right? If it's a mentor mentee kind of relationship or friendship, then of course I already have given myself boundaries. There are things that I cannot say. There are times of the day I cannot call, and so on and so forth. But if it's some other kind of friendship, then uh, I mean uh, it's 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 difficult. But I think boundaries are just key. Boundaries
Yeah.
are just key. Because I mean, you could find yourself in situations where, as a man, as a guy, you're friends with a lady who is married, who is perhaps elderly, or maybe even the same age bracket as you know, and then you want to continue maintaining friendship, or keeping things as they were with this person,
Hmm.
but for some reason the person begins to develop attractions, unhealthy attractions, or
As a married lady, oh.
as a married lady, yeah, towards you, you know, which you didn't intend for it to happen, right? But you never know what's going on in the person's marriage, as well, and how the person's relationship with her husband is,
Yeah.
and for some reason you are now becoming the makeshift husband, where where
Mm.
she's seeking emotional validation from, she's seeking, all of these kind of things from. Unknown to you, that is what she's doing, but you are just being a friend, and then when the chips are down, you wonder how did we get here, right?
It's
But
very dangerous. It's
yeah, it is
very.
actually. So it's very important that boundaries are set, and how much of these boundaries you set depend on what kind of friendship you have with whoever it is involved. You know.
Well, I do
Uh,
have a question here. So,
mm,
where do you draw the line between being a wicked person, like a wicked friend, and setting boundaries? Because, just for example, if you have a friend, married or not, who needs some sort of emotional, I wouldn't say safety, but like emotional support or just support, psychological. They are going through a
mm,
tough time in
yeah,
their marriage or in their relationship with their boyfriend or girlfriend or whomever. And you mentioned that friendship is about being intentional. So you want to be intentional with them and validate them and just help them come out of that dark
the
place where
situation,
they
yeah.
are. So where do you draw the line? Um, Between setting, because now we've established that it's kind of dangerous when you become the makeshift boyfriend or
Mm,
makeshift husband, where they go to for emotional validation, emotional support, psychological this relationship advice, this one, that one. It's dangerous. Sometimes in fact most times
most times, yeah.
it's dangerous. So when you want to establish boundaries, do you not feel like a wicked person, like a wicked friend? Oh, I thought I was a good friend, but I'm supposed to be there for this girl, but I'm not
Mm,
able to be that because I'm trying to like, enforce boundaries. How do you like balance, mm, you know,
yeah,
being intentional with setting boundaries?
yeah. So in the context of the example you just made now of of providing advice and being there for this person in when they're going through some kind of emotional or trying to make sense basically of the situation they are in. I think there's a difference, even though it might be a thin line between providing advice and support, right? From validating somebody
Okay.
emotionally, right? So what is dangerous? The dangerous part is the validation. So you shouldn't be providing validation for somebody who is committed to somebody else.
Give an example of what this validation looks like, emotional
All right.
validation.
So for instance, somebody could be having um an issue with her husband or boyfriend, right? And then the person comes to you to say, "Oh, this is what I'm going through. Either my boyfriend um is not um is not physically there, he's not being there for me. He doesn't make time for me. He's not available when I need him to be, and he's always busy with work, or he's always out with friends, and so it's giving her issues, right? And so she comes to you as a guy, as her male friend, to say, "Oh, I don't think my boyfriend he loves me because he doesn't have time for me. He doesn't." Right? She's coming to you with a concern. Okay, is it is a different thing for you to address that concern, to say, "Oh, for whatever, or however you're going to address it, to try and perhaps make her see other reasons why that might not be a big issue,
Okay.
right? Or why, or how she could address that issue. That is different from you now filling up that space that the boyfriend has created.
It's kind
Okay.
of called like descending into the arena for lawyers.
uh you know So you now trying to be there for her, trying to fill up all those spaces that the boyfriend has created by not, or the husband has created by not being available, by being busy at work. So when he's busy at work, she calls you and you guys are on the phone talking. Or when he's out with friends, you are there. She says, "Where are you? Can you come over? Or can I speak with you?" That she's now trying to use you to fill up that,
Mhm.
to validate.
Yeah.
that which is where the problem lies. But I don't think there's any issue with her, being vulnerable with you and saying, oh, this is the difficulty I'm going through. What do you think I should do? How do you think I should approach this? That's different. And then you again, it behoves on you to know when your advice has is beginning to go beyond just advice.
Mhm.
It behoves on you to know the difference. So these things are really complex. These things are really complex, which is why I said at the very beginning that there's no one size fits all answer.
Yeah.
What works for one might be a disaster for somebody else.
Mhm.
So it's context, situation specific. And
Yeah. I mean, the examples you gave, they're like assuming that the two people are in the same city where she can say, "Oh, where are you? Can you come over?"
exactly,
Like this
assuming
happens even with people who are not in the same
who are
city.
not or in the same
Uh,
country itself.
yeah, like emotions develop virtually.
Yeah,
Attachments are formed virtually, remotely,
yeah,
without
yeah,
necessarily being in the same. So basically, when you're holding space for another person
for another
emotionally, it's
person.
dangerous. Holding
Yeah,
space is like they're lonely, they need someone to talk to.
they need someone to. That's it.
You're
That's it.
that
And then when they
person.
when they're in that situation, they think about you instead of
Exactly. Because
So
you've made
that's
yourself always available. So then they know
available.
they can lean on you. So it's these things. Shall God will help us. And there's something you said earlier about sometimes when you're in control and then sometimes you're not in control. I think
Yeah,
it's very important. And first off, I think people who have never slept, people who have not really made mistakes in relationships,
mistakes.
they tend to rely so much on their strength. They have some sort of moral confidence. So,
Mm,
and this is my experience when you're talking to people like that, nothing you say makes sense about
makes
boundaries
sense.
because they believe if they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it. It doesn't matter how long they talk with this person, it doesn't matter how much they talk to this person. They're not
Mm,
going to do it, they're not going to do it. So, people who have not gradually slipped into, to use your word, this inappropriate situation don't
yeah.
understand or may not understand why boundaries are like super important. And it's not just, you know,
Or they may be in denial. Actually, they may
maybe,
be in denial of the extent to which they are encroaching the
yeah,
boundaries. You know,
and just making up excuses like this is
making up.
okay, I didn't go
That's
that
it.
far,
That's it.
because I know
Exactly.
the thing
That's it.
about boundary is if you want to set your boundary at 20 because your threshold is 21. Personally, I feel like that boundary is way too close.
Mm,
If your threshold is 21, you're better off setting your boundary at 10. So if you
yeah.
know that you if you talk with this particular person for this long and the conversations are so interesting and all, why are you spending 2 3 hours, for example,
Hours. Yeah.
talking with this person? Why don't you limit your conversations to like 5 10 minutes and keep it moving? Or if you know that when you're in the same space with this person, you just want to cuddle them, you want to kiss them, their lips are succulent, they are this one and that one and that one. Why are you making plans to
Why are you
meet
in the
up?
same place? Exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes we're like, yeah, if you like, you keep me in the same room with this handsome man, and or if nothing, not or some men will say, if you like, keep me in this room with this. If I don't want to do, I don't want to do. So
Those are
I
making excuses as far as I'm
I
concerned.
feel like
Because
there are people that don't understand because they've never had to deal with that or they are in denial as
hmm,
as you said. So and I think it's a very important thing to consider because even the Bible says that let he who thinks he
who thinks
stands
it stands?
take
Yeah.
heed lest he falls. And
It falls.
throughout
Yeah.
scripture, we've seen examples, we've seen stories of strong men, wise men, intelligent men make
Hmm,
heinous mistakes. David is one
yeah.
example that comes immediately to mind. David was not even in the same room with this woman.
It
All
wasn't.
he needed to do was accidentally see her. And that was the beginning of a lot of crimes that followed that
You
he
know.
committed. So I think super important thing to keep in mind. One other question I was going to ask you is Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like your partner was not respecting boundaries because of a friend of the opposite sex that like she had? And how did you deal with that situation?
I haven't actually,
Okay,
and
that's
I
good.
mean, yeah, I have a partner who doesn't have so many friends, or who doesn't see it as any big deal keeping staying in touch, with especially of the opposite sex. Um, so in fact, sometimes I ask her, don't you why don't you have friends? Why you always, So I've not been in that situation, right? But I think it's also something possible, where your partner, puts you in a position where you are overthinking their interaction with somebody else of the opposite sex,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and of course, in all of these things, I think it's always important, even in the part we're talking about being emotionally available and replacing, you called it step into the arena, right?
Descending,
In
yeah.
those situations, I think communication is also very key, right? Communication is also very key. If you have a partner that understands that you guys talk, you know, and of course that's another thing. Many people are not very big on communication to the extent that they want to sit down and listen to you and hear you speak, and not just hear you, but try to understand where you're coming from. That's not very big in many relationships, and generally it's a different kind of skill that you need to
You
acquire.
need to learn,
But
yeah.
yeah, but I think it's a very important skill in relationship. Communication is very, very key because it solves over 60% of the problems that can arise,
Yeah. So
right? If
just
you
to
if
cut
you
you
if you
short.
have Yeah.
No, okay, no, finish.
So if you have a friend who seems to be stepping over boundary or stepping over boundary, right? It's important for you to communicate with that person openly, and say, see, this and these are the reasons why I might reduce the number of times I call you, or I think we have to reduce the number of hours we talk on the phone, or I think, I might have to give you some space for this and this
Okay.
and these reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and then let the person also understand. I mean, the person might not agree with you, the person might not agree that, this is the route you should take, but let the person know this is what you want to do for this and these reasons, and you know, so those kind of conversations are very key so that nobody is in doubt as to, oh, this person just cut me off. And it also answers the question about you being wicked. You asked me a question about,
Yeah.
well, how do you draw the line between being wicked? It's simply by telling the person this is how,
Communication.
yeah, this is how it's going to go, and this is why I'm taking this route. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry if you don't agree, but that's what it's going to be. So in that situation, there's nothing like wickedness because the person
You
knows
communicated clearly.
exactly, you communicated clearly. So I think that's
I
also very,
actually
very
have a
important.
personal experience with this. I was the one who was cut off. And this
Hmm.
it happened way years before I even got married.
Yeah.
I was friends with this guy, right? And then he did not even get married. He just started a relationship.
Hmm.
And a few months after he started the relationship, he sent me a message, a well-written
Detailed.
paragraph, telling me, okay, so Keziah, you're a wonderful person, good friend, blah blah blah. However, I just got into this relationship that I want to take seriously.
Hmm.
And I told her about you, and
Hmm.
she's not comfortable with my
Interesting.
interaction with you. Mind you, I never met this lady. I don't know who she is. I don't know her name. I don't know what she looks like. We've never even had the chance to meet so that it would be that, okay, she met me and
She
she's
met me
not
and she
comfortable.
doesn't, yeah, yeah.
I don't know what dude told her because I'm assuming that her reaction would be based on what he has told her.
Hmm.
Sometimes these things work like this, just based on how you're seeing a person describe someone, like an ex
Or
or a
based on how
friend.
insecure the person is
The
as well,
person is, yes,
you
that's
know?
also another factor. But sometimes
Yeah.
it's like if a person is so into the details about a person, then it gets you wonder, like, okay, wait, is this
Yeah.
person
What
just a
else are you missing
friend,
out? Yeah.
or stuff like that. But anyways, none of that mattered at the time. He wrote the message to me saying she's not comfortable with his interaction with me, and so
Mm.
because he really wants to take this relationship seriously, he's going to have to cut me off. So,
Mm.
and listen, when I tell you from that day till today that I'm speaking, that cut off, they were very serious, like real cut off. You understand what I'm talking about? Real
So
cut off.
are you the one, that has kept the cut off, or it's
No,
just,
so I'm someone who respects boundaries a lot. All you
yeah,
need to do is say the word. If you tell me you don't want to have anything to do with me again, I promise you, you will not hear from me again. And
mm,
when I tell you how seriously this, I've had also an experience when I left Nigeria. Someone said, "Don't fall in love with me," because I have this experience a lot. I'm just nice to girls, and then they think I'm interested in them, and then they start to fall for me. Whereas the
yeah,
whole time I'm just,
I'm
being
just I'm
nice to
just
them.
catching
He told me,
cruise.
"Do not fall for me expressly." And listen, even though I had such a good friendship with this person, that personally I believe maybe the chance was there, but
Yeah,
wasn't really there. But is that kind of thing where you don't know, but you
you
were
don't know.
open
Yeah,
to exploring? Just
yeah,
because of that statement alone, I'm
mm,
telling you that when he was finally ready, you told me not to fall for you. There's no, my heart cannot do reverse. It can't go back, you know. So when this guy told me that message, I mean, sent me the message saying
yeah, yeah.
he's cutting me off. I told him I understand and everything. And guess what? If I had level 5 respect for him before, my respect for him went to 100
Why?
because it was clear, just like what you said. He communicated clearly. Number one, he didn't ghost
Yeah.
me in the friendship. There was no,
Okay.
he didn't
Okay.
leave me in doubt. And this is something that a lot of people struggle with: clear, honest, open, transparent communication. And when
Yeah.
people ask me, how do you define adulthood or how do you define adulting? Personally, adulting is being able to have the tough and difficult conversations. A
Difficult
lot of
conversations.
people
Definitely. Yeah.
shy away. A lot of people run away from uncomfortable conversations or difficult or
Mm.
tough conversations or unpleasant conversations. He was able to have that. He wrote it out. And I told him, listen, I respect it. And I never tried to contact him after that. He never tried to contact me after that. They are married now. So I heard, right?
Oh, they're
I,
married now.
I
Okay.
actually see his posts and everything on Facebook and all of that, but I don't interact. Like, not even a like. That's how much I gave them space. Because I don't even want the wife seeing my name in his
Senior.
list
Yeah.
of people that liked his pictures or anything. I just see it, I scroll and pass. Sometimes because we have mutual friends, they say, "Oh, this guy." I didn't even tell any of them that he cut me off.
Yeah.
I just kept it to myself, so they don't even know.
Hmm.
Do you understand? But I respect the way I respect that guy because of what he did. One, two, the fact that he was able to one know that this is a relationship he wants to take seriously, and two, he was able to prioritize that relationship.
That relationship.
And this is how personally I approach marriage as well. For me, I don't believe that there is any friendship that is worth losing your marriage for.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe it
Definitely.
also goes down to our understanding as Christians. I feel that when the Bible says leave to cleave, for me, I don't know. I just your marriage should come first. And this takes me,
It has to.
yes, this takes me to the other question I was going to ask you about priorities, right? If you've had such a good friendship with someone, maybe even a childhood friend. You guys have known each other for years. You guys have gone through thick and thin together. You and this girl, you guys have, such a good friendship. And then in your marriage, for some reason, maybe your wife doesn't say because maybe she's on the reserve part, but you just notice that she's not comfortable around this particular friend. What do you prioritize in that situation? Is it your marriage? And let's say you've just been married to your wife for 5 years, but this is a friend that you've known for 25 long years. Which
Yeah.
one comes first? Which relationship do you prioritize? Your marriage, your friendship? And when I'm saying prioritize, I don't mean, oh, you have to now divorce your wife. I mean just there will always be conflict in that marriage if you don't establish boundaries with this friend. So are
with
you
this
willing to
person.
constantly have that argument in your marriage because of this friend? Or are you going to, for the sake of peace in your marriage, just, give that friend some space? What is your priority in a situation like
Yeah,
this?
yeah. Just to answer the question straight away, right? The priority, like you said, is the marriage, right? The marriage is the priority. Regardless in whatever situation, however you want to turn it around and look at it, yeah, once you have left, because the living, you just mentioned live to cleave. The living includes leaving that friend of 20 something, 30 something years that you've had, right? That also is part of the living. You're not only leaving your father and your mother's house, you are leaving every other thing that is outside of this person you want to live with. All right. So in whatever situation or circumstance or condition that you both find yourself, your commitment to that marriage relationship must come first. In fact,
Okay.
it even comes first. It comes in first even beyond your immediate family members. How much more friends that you just knew along the way, right?
Hmm.
It is as important as that. It's as important. The marriage is as important as that. So
Okay.
anything that disturbs the peace of the marriage is secondary.
All
Is
right.
secondary. That's that. Now, just to make a quick point on the instance you gave of your friend cutting you off and all that. In fact, I have a chapter in this my book on friendships, right?
On
Which
smithing. You
which
mean the
which
book
which
smithing?
which yeah, the book coming out, which I think is really important for you to read. In fact, so many times, I mean, it's nice that this friend ended up marrying this girl for whom he cut off relationship with you for, right? But in many other cases, that is not how the story ends.
Okay.
So you get into a relationship with somebody, you like this person, you want to commit to this person, you are seeing the end from the beginning already before you even get into the relationship. And so because of that, you cut off everybody else. And then 2 months down the line, 6 months, 1 year down the line, the person also cuts you off. Now you are hanging dry and isolated and alone. Everybody, like you said, you have cut them off, so they have also cut you off, and you can't. It's difficult for you to reconnect with them. So it is something that is not very advisable, right? Even though, like you said, I mean, it's important to always have those clear conversations, right? Those clear conversations are very key, but I don't think it's advisable for people to cut off friendships because you are in a relationship.
Hmm.
A relationship is different from a marriage. Like I always say, once you have not walked down the aisle, it can always go south.
Okay, so but you're saying this cutting off, right? Especially if your partner is not comfortable, is okay in marriage, but not necessarily in
Yeah,
relationship.
definitely. I mean, it's what you should do in marriage. If your partner is not comfortable with any friend of yours, you understand why? Of course, it's not because your partner says, "Oh, I don't like this person," who you have been friends with, until you say, "Okay, because you don't like him, I must not like him as well," right? Of course, some partners can be petty. This person, I don't, he doesn't do, it's ugly, or he doesn't know how to dress, or you see, look at the shoe he always wears,
Yeah.
So there could be petty reasons like that.
Reasons.
So you understand the reason why, if it's a justifiable reason that it makes your partner stay on edge or keeps your partner on edge and has a negative impact on your dynamics with your partner, then of course, you speak to that person, find out how you guys can, if you want to maintain a relationship, how you can maintain a relationship without it affecting your partner that negatively,
Yeah.
and anymore. So your partner must always be the priority once you are married. But if it's
Right.
just a friendship, boyfriend, girlfriend, please don't cut off any friend because of any girlfriend or boyfriend.
Mm, mm.
It's not. It could haunt you. It could haunt you eventually.
Yeah, no, for
You know.
me, it was basically just about the principle. If this person is
Yeah,
willing to
yeah.
do this,
To
and
do
who
this,
knows, maybe at the time he sent me that message, they were already making plans to be married because I don't know at what
yeah,
stage in their relationship
yeah,
he sent that
yeah.
message to me. So, but for me, what I appreciated more was just the fact that he was even willing to do that, So if he's going to do this while dating, he's going to that's someone who's going to feel really safe in her relationship because she sees that her man considers her
Well,
emotions in the
well, not
marriage.
necessarily. Well, there's high chance, but not necessarily.
I
Not
like
necessarily. I
that you're
mean,
bringing a dissenting perspective because then you're bringing the perspective of a man, and I'm looking at
yeah,
things from like a female perspective.
yeah,
Let me ask you
yeah.
a
I mean,
question.
he could be doing that to just to fulfill righteousness. I mean, you don't like her, okay? Let me cut her off.
Yeah, but if it was to
Or
fulfill all righteousness, then there should have been some sort of communication between then and now, right? But when I tell you that there's been no communication, he kept his own end of the word, the bargain, and I kept
mm,
my own end. He's not tried to sneakily in any way, form or manner, reach out to me.
I,
If
I
you
understand that.
if you're doing
I
stuff to
understand
fulfill all
that, but
righteousness, you send the text, you show her, you see, I've sent the message, but somehow you find a way on Instagram and delete
mm,
the messages quickly or Facebook. But that has not happened.
they say different strokes for different folks,
Hmm.
right? So perhaps he didn't he didn't see you in that kind of. I mean, he didn't have any other kind of feeling or attraction towards you. Maybe he just felt he saw you as a friend as well. So letting this one go will not hurt anything. Will not
Hmm.
will not hurt, right? But can we say that? I mean, it's possible that that could be how he is. But I'm just saying that
It's not always the
it's
case.
not always the case. There could be some other lady who he has some kind of attraction towards, who perhaps his fiancé might not even say cut this one off. Maybe he's not and even if she said cut this one off, and because of the attraction and the kind of feeling he has toward that person, he could find other ways to stay connected, maybe on
Hmm.
LinkedIn or even physically, or save your number or something else. I mean, I'm just giving various scenarios. These are,
It's possible. Hey, very.
yeah.
I'm not gonna argue
So,
that with you. Super possible, but
so really, there's really no, I mean, it's just different people, different.
yeah. I was going to ask you a question. Have you always been able to tell when females like you? Because now I'm asking this question based on your post on Facebook.
Mm.
Have you asked, first of all, in fact, have you asked any of your female friends why they cut you off? One. And two, have you always been able to tell when one of your female friends is attracted to you beyond friendship?
Yeah. So, I have asked why a friend cut me off, and this one was a very, very close friend actually, who I even was open also to the possibility of a relationship with, right? But for some reason, in fact, I think I even asked, not I think, I asked her out, to be
Hmm.
my girlfriend, and she gave me the brother line, you're like a brother to me, I don't want to spoil what we have
Yeah.
and all that, and it hurt me, it was hurtful. So, but I mean, I if I think I even told her that I didn't want to be a brother. I was not a brother. I didn't want to be a brother. I didn't feel like a brother. So I cannot be acting like a brother when I have other feelings. So the relationship was not even quite as solid again after that point. But I realized that after I got married, she cut me off. If I had the small relationship, the small friendship that was there, that was surviving on Lifeline, was cut off completely. And I actually reached out to ask her, what happened? What did I do? Did I offend? What did I commit? And interestingly, this one will bust the brain. She said she was upset that I left her and went to marry somebody else.
But she said you were like a brother to her.
You see, so she also said that she was expecting me to continue
To chase her.
to exactly.
Ooh.
Right? To continue to chase and chase until I could chase no more.
Okay.
And so that was why she called me off. So I feel like, she's perhaps still had feelings for me, which she didn't want to. I mean, she didn't want to make herself vulnerable, which is why she called me off. And I honestly appreciated that, and I just let her be. So So yes, I've asked such a question and I got an honest response. In fact, I was very happy that I got that kind of honest
It gave you
response.
some sort of closure.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Which
Mm.
which you don't always get, and sometimes it's always not the best, in fact, to look for those kind of closures. But in my own case, I sought it and I got it. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Right? Now whether you always can tell when a female friend likes you, well, it depends. Yes and no, right? Yes and no. It depends on how
No, I'm
close you
asking
guys
about
are.
you. Have you, you know,
Oh, okay.
been able to
Personally,
tell? Yeah.
not really, not really, and maybe because I'm not somebody who has been a ladies guy. I'm
Okay.
not a ladies guy kind of kind of person. So I don't think, no, I've not been able to tell, um, except on few occasions, on few occasions where I was particularly, concerned to find out whether or not, the person liked me. But on most other occasions, I'm not so keen on finding out, if you like me. If we vibe, that's fine. We vibe on a friendly level. If it goes beyond that, fine. If it doesn't, we stay where we are.
Mm-hmm.
But I've not always been very keen. But on the few occasions that I've that I've tried to find out, most times I've gotten brother uh the brother feedback,
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you so
which
much,
yeah,
Michael, for being on this episode. So before we go, I just want you to give an advice to these two categories of people: married people who are currently struggling between trusting their partners and calling the bluff on their, friendship with the
their
opposite sex.
friendships, yeah,
Like, do I trust this person, or an advice for them, and then an advice to the friends now, who are, what kind of boundaries do I need to enforce now that my friend is married, or
mm,
just it's something. Give an advice to the two categories of people.
yeah,
Sometimes they are cutting you off, just based on your example, because they had feelings themselves and they're looking out for themselves. They don't want to be vulnerable around you. They know that there's still feelings there, so they cut you off. Sometimes it's just out of respect for your own marriage. It's different things. So just a word of advice, brief, straight to the point, for the
yeah.
friends and for the
All
married
right.
people.
So in the for the two categories of people, I think I would just advise that you should talk about it, right? For those who are married, talk about the friendships that are disturbing you with your spouse. If the friendships you're uncomfortable with, talk about them with your spouse. Have genuine conversations, open conversations about them. Try to get your spouse to understand your side of the coin and how you perceive it, why it is worrying to you, and have those conversations. If you are a single person who is trying to or make sense of how much boundary you should give or should not give to a friend of yours who has just gotten married, don't let the marriage be a hindrance to the friendship. That's the mindset, first of all. So have that mindset that being married doesn't mean that they have kicked your friendship away, basically. Because I think that is the mindset it comes from. People just see marriage as a head boot to friendship, which should not be. All right. The fact that they're married doesn't mean that they cannot be your friends, even if they're of the opposite sex. Okay. But of course, you must ensure that you are not still emotionally, if you were still emotionally or romantically attracted to them. If you are, then that is a no-no, right? Maintaining that relationship, continue that relationship will continue to give you, torture, and of course will be dangerous to their marriage. So,
Yeah.
so if you are romantically involved or attracted to them, then I think you should, just let it go because this person has chosen somebody else, right? But if you're not, then just make those very healthy boundaries. Don't call late in the night. Don't always try to be all up in the person's face. It's okay to reach out once in a while and ask how you doing. And of course, be intentional. Basically, if the person has an event, try your best to support, to attend if you can, and just let the person see that you're making an effort to be around the person and to be available for the person. You know Yeah, it's a friendship, and that's what the world is about. We can't exist in isolation. We
Mm-hmm.
exist as a unit. So
Thank you.
don't lose those very good relationships.
Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank
As
you so
for
much,
me,
Kezia. It's
I think,
been nice.
yeah, nice conversation. We've even gone over the hour mark. For me,
Yeah,
I think for married people, as you said, isolation is not really a good thing. So your spouse cannot be everything to you. You still need your friends. So as a married person, you should have your friends, right? But then again, boundaries, which is something that's echoed through our conversations, you
yeah,
should
yeah,
enforce boundaries. And something I'm going to add is that sometimes you can't always see. As humans, we do have blind spots, not just driving, but in life, with our hearts, our relationship and stuff. We have blind spots and we cannot always see. I don't know if you watch
yeah,
this Netflix reality show, Love is Blind, the one for
hmm,
the UK.
yeah.
So Nicole, um,
I've watched all of them. In fact, I'm a huge
right.
fan.
Exactly. I watch it too. So if you watch the last one for the UK, so Nicole and her husband now,
Yeah,
he's German. Initially, she couldn't see what he was seeing
he was
because
saying
she got engaged to some other guy, and he was so frustrated. I guess he was so frustrated to the point he couldn't communicate the danger. And maybe there are
yeah,
rules. You can't badmouth another participant in the show.
yeah,
So he needed to tread cautiously, but he saw what she couldn't see. And sometimes I've had, friends tell me that they are seeing that there's a lady that their husband is friends with and they're not comfortable with that lady. It's not because they're insecure, but sometimes a woman can see what another woman is doing in a way that you as a man cannot see. And the
mm,
reverse is also true. Sometimes your woman can be thinking that this is an innocent interaction, but you as a guy, you be guy. So you know when
yeah,
another
yeah,
guy
yeah.
is
Knowing,
trying
yeah,
to exactly. So these are all blind spots that I think married people should also take into account. If your partner is acting uneasy, or me, I'm a very like vocal person. I express my thoughts. I'm very quick to say what I think. Oh, this person or that person, or I'm not concerned. I don't go fishing for signals, but I pick up on them. So I think as a married person, keep your friends and everything, but also listen to how these friendships impact your partner, how
your
it's
relationship,
impacting
yeah,
your marriage,
your
and be
marriage, mhm.
be willing to enforce these boundaries. And for single people or even married people, but like you're friends with another married
With yeah,
person or married people, I think it's also very important to like not cut off, but take a step back, see how much these people are willing to involve you. For example, if I get pregnant, then I invite you to my child baby dedication or naming
yeah,
ceremony or something, then be available, help them
yeah,
and all.
yeah, yeah.
I think the principle there for me is giving the wheels or the rein to them. You control this. Like, tell me how much involved you want me to be and stuff
Mm.
like that. And you set the pace. Because at the end of the day, it's not these people that are in a committed relationship. You are the one who's married. So you get to you made the vows. You get to set the boundaries. Your marriage, what
Yeah,
works
but
for your marriage?
if you want to go that route, it's also important to let them know that you're giving them the rein, so that they're not expecting you to also, extend the
Communication.
hand, and
It
you're
goes
not
down to
extending the hand.
communication.
Exactly,
Open
communication.
communication at the end of the day.
Definitely,
So yeah,
definitely,
that's my own advice.
definitely.
And I think, and Mike, thank you so much for the
Thank you for
perspective
having
that
me.
you've brought to this conversation. And guys, listen, perhaps you're watching this on YouTube, or if you prefer an audio only experience, I will always take the audio files to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. So please feel free. Mike, what's your handle in case people want to reach out to you for questions or
Yeah, so my handle is Mike Ogu on Instagram and Facebook. I think it's just Mike MYK
okay,
So
guys. So that's his
yeah,
handle.
and then please look out for my book, Smitten. It's
Smith.
coming out in July. It's fantastic, actually. You guys should just read it. It's a whole of my heart in one book.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And this is Keziah, the host of the Young in Love podcast. Follow on Instagram at Young in Love underscore podcast. We have a Facebook page, still Young in Love underscore podcast. And please share your comments. I want to read your experience. Like, are you the person who is okay with your spouse keeping as many friends as possible with the opposite sex, or are you on like more on the reserved side? I want to know what you think. So, guys, thank you, and until when next we meet. Bye. I'm be good.
Young in love.